So we started off week 17 of the NFL season with two Christmas games. The two Christmas games were not eventful at all, although the ratings, of course, the NFL absolutely smashed the NBA in ratings, which is not a surprise, and they should because players actually come out and play. The Chiefs and the Steelers 29-10, and the Ravens absolutely stomped on the Texans 31-2, which should have been more. Trust me, I watched that game. It should have been worse than that. But nevertheless, I'm sitting here saying to myself, like, oh man, it's going to be one of those weeks. It's going to be blowouts, blowouts, blowouts. Then we get to, and even before, and then, sorry, then we get to Thursday. Seahawks 6-3. Oh no. Oh man. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, how am I gonna do this show? Because these games are just getting even worse. And then Saturday, oh, 40-7, the Chargers beating the Patriots. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, this is gonna get awful. Then the Broncos and the Bengals, overtime. Okay, we got something. Then the Cardinals and Rams, 13-9. Oh, God. So, after a very eventful Sunday, and then, of course, a lot of stories and headlines coming out of this whole week 17, we still got the Lions and the 49ers. We still got that game to go. And that game, I mean, it means nothing to the 49ers, but it means something to them. Trust me, it does. And I'll lead up to what's going to happen for next week. But I was just like, oh man, what are we going to do here? Like, what's going to happen here? So let me get to the first order of business. First of all, and it's going to be it went from not interesting to a whole different can of worms this week because there's so much to talk about. But I mean, although I'm going to stick to my original plan, which is talk about six games in the Pick Six, of course, unscripted Pick Six podcast. If you haven't listened before, this is the routine. Every week I pick six games. I go on and on about the six games. And I might have notable mentions, this, that, and the third. But man, okay, let me get to this because we really got to get to this. So my first order of business, I'm going to pick, and I have to talk about this based on the ramifications of what's going to happen in April. The Giants and the Colts. Now, usually I wouldn't talk about this at all. I would not. I would, because it's one of those games, that meaningless games. But the ramifications of this game for the NFL draft just shifted a whole different realm. And I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the game and I'm saying to myself, I mean, I watched the highlights and I saw a Giants and the Colts team that actually were playing, and they were playing to win these games, like this game. Now, what I'm about to tell you is the stat for Drew Lock, which is something I've never heard of since he's been in the league. Drew Lock went 17 for 23, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, and wasn't touched once, wasn't sacked once. Malik Neighbors went for a colossal 7 receptions, 171 for 2 touchdowns. Wan'Dale Robinson, 5 receptions, 71 yards, 1 touchdown. Darius Slayton had 1 catch, which was a 32-yarder for a touchdown. Alec Pierce on the other side, 6 receptions, 122, 1 touchdown. Michael Pittman, 9 receptions, 109, 1 touchdown. Classic Flacco threw 26 for 38, 332 touchdowns, 2 picks, was sacked twice. Jonathan Taylor went nuclear, 32 carries for 125 and 2 touchdowns. This was a classic game that I would have, if you had told me the beginning of week 17 that this would have been one of the better games, I would have said you're crazy. I would have said it would be a drag out, boring game, probably 12-9, maybe 15 or something with a couple of safeties or whatever. But no, the Giants played this game to win. By the way, the Giants are 1-8 at home, so the Giant fans could rest now because the Giants, with 9 home games this year, were absolutely atrocious. That's a whole different conversation. But oh wow, they came out to play and they came out to win. I think Brian Dable's like, screw this, I'm gonna get fired. I need to win this game, and I'm gonna win the rest of the way. Because if my mind serves me right, I think the Giants fell from first to fourth or fifth now in the draft, and now they would have to get some help next week. All kinds of crazy scenarios for them to even get the number 1 pick. The Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes is completely turned upside down. And then the teams that are on top right now, they're not looking for a quarterback. The Jaguars and the Patriots, they're not looking for a quarterback right now. They are definitely not looking for a quarterback. They're looking for help on the offensive line and defense. So Travis Hunter might have just put himself as a top pick based on what's happened. And as I keep going, you're going to understand what I'm about to say, what I'm going to say, not about to. Well, yeah, I'm about to say, but also what I'm going to say. But the Giants 45, the Colts 33. Where did this offense come from? But anyways, wow. Next order of business, and this is another situation, another game. I was like, there's no way I would even talk about this game if it was just whatever. But I'm going to go to the Raiders, who were also in the draft sweepstakes. Antonio Pierce doing whatever he can to win games. We saw that in the Thanksgiving game against the Chiefs, where they had a couple of blunders, muffed field goals, muffed snaps. Aiden O'Connell, 20 for 35, 242, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked once. Spencer Rattler, 20 receptions, 20 completions. Excuse me, folks. 20 completions, 36 attempts, 218, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, was sacked 3 times. Antonio Pierce has been trying to win. Let's be honest, folks. Even before all this, he's been trying to win. And Amir Abdullah, 20 carries for 115. I mean, Brock Bowers, this guy's going to be great. If you haven't watched him yet, folks, please, man, go check him out. He's good. Jacoby Myers, 5 receptions, 61 yards, a touchdown. I mean, it's forget about the Saints. The Saints are dead, and so are the Raiders. But I think the takeaway from this game is Antonio Pierce winning, and now the Raiders are just continuing to drop in the draft pool. And, I mean, we all know they need a quarterback, but they need more than a quarterback. I think they need everything and also a new owner, but that's a whole different conversation. But Raiders win 25-10, and Antonio Pierce continues to win despite reports that he's going to be let go. They have helped shake up the draft. The draft order right now, it's not even finalized, it's not even close. We're not going to know until probably the end of the 425 games on next Sunday who's going to be drafting one. But next game I'm going to talk about, and, it seems he's always finding a way to hit the pick six. There are some weeks he's not doing a damn thing. He's just erratic. He's crazy. He's doing all sorts of ridiculous things. I would say sometimes it's completely preposterous. But, this guy finds a way, somehow, some way, to make the pick six. And I'm talking about none other than, of course, the Baker himself, Baker Mayfield. 27 for 32, 359, 5 touchdowns. You heard it. 5 touchdowns, no picks. The man threw no picks. Usually you would, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, 6 touchdowns, 2 picks. Baker Mayfield did not throw an interception. And on the other side, Bryce Young, keep pushing, young fella. 15 completions, 28 attempts, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he seems to finally get a connection with Adam Thielen. Why would I say that? Adam Thielen, classic Adam Thielen. 5 receptions, 110, 2 touchdowns. Shout out to Adam Thielen. Former Viking, gotta give him shouts. And of course, on the other end, Mike Evans, classic quiet Mike Evans, who's going to be a Hall of Famer. 8 receptions, 97 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen McMillan, 5 receptions, 51, two touchdowns. Baker Mayfield, man, I don't know what it is. I don't know what to say about Baker Mayfield. Right now, it looks like the Buccaneers are going to win the NFC South and get a home game because as of about an hour ago, the Commanders beat Atlanta in overtime 30-24, which now puts the Buccaneers in sole possession of first place in the division. And funny enough, Atlanta actually they controlled their fate because they beat the Buccaneers twice in the regular season. But since making that Penix move, Penix is looking good. He's got a long way to go. But I think Atlanta's kind of said, you know what? This is where we're going to go. And I'm not going to get into that. But I will get into that at the end of the pick six because I have to talk about that. But anyways, the Buccaneers 48-14, and the Buccaneers are now in sole possession of first place in the NFC South at 9-7. And as far as I'm concerned, are going to win the division and they're going to get a home playoff game. Next order of business, I'm going to talk about this game. It might not mean nothing, but there's something special about this game. Dolphins versus Browns. Now, the Dolphins are always going to be the Dolphins. They can't play in cold weather. They can't do anything. They have a decent quarterback in Tua, who obviously didn't play today because he's injured again. I keep saying it, but don't say it. Don't say I said so. I like Tua. I think he's a good young man, but that's all I'm going to say. I just don't feel like he's a guy for the future, but that's a whole different conversation. So the Dolphins win 20-30. And to start with Cleveland, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who had 27 completions for 47 attempts, 170. The guy is not, and he had 1 pick. I understand you replacing Jameis, because Jameis is very erratic. But if you're going to try to win, you got to have somebody. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is not the answer whatsoever. I've watched him now for 2 games because I watched this particular game via NFL Red Zone, and NFL Red Zone actually had only 2 games in the late hour there, which was this game and the Vikings versus Green Bay, which I'm going to go to next. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he's not even remotely ready for the NFL. I mean, might as well go out and get a CFL guy. And no disrespect to the CFL quarterbacks, but my gosh, he's not ready at all. He's very erratic, not ready, very off base with a lot of his plays. His awareness of what's happening sometimes is completely oblivious. He's just not there, and you could see it. And Tyler Huntley now, of course, another guy who keeps finding himself on the roster. 22 for 26, 225, 1 touchdown. Very, very easy day. He also ran for a touchdown, 7 carries for 52 yards. So he actually used his legs, which I'm not surprised. Tyreek Hill, 9, 105. I mean, they did what they have to do. They're 8-8. They're going to need help next week if they're going to make the playoffs. But my takeaway from this is Calais Campbell, man. He's still around. He's still around. He's only missed in his 17 years, I think I'm right, correct? If I am right, 17 years in the league, he's only missed 15 games. And apparently there's a reports if they don't make the playoffs, they're going to release him so he can go on a roster to try to win. Like, he really wants to win a championship. This guy is a leader. He's passionate about the game. He doesn't believe in load management, NBA. As bad as these two teams are in my eyes, they're actually more watchable than an NBA game. I'm dead serious. Like, I can't watch an NBA game. I heard there was a fight tonight between Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero. I still haven't Googled to watch it, and I can care less. So shout out to Calais Campbell, and hopefully, if the Dolphins make the playoffs, great. If not, he gets released. Hey, man, the Vikings are calling you, man. Trust me. The more the merrier. The more leadership, the more veteran knowledge, especially this time of the season, this time of the year, is always welcomed. So, and that's the next game. Vikings against the Packers. My Vikings. Wow. Sam Darnold, I don't know what to say. He threw the ball 43 times, 33 completions, 377, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Was sacked once. Jordan Love, who I believe is just overrated in my eyes. I'm not hating on the kid. 19 completions, 30 attempts, 185, 1 touchdown. He just seems to start off very, very slow, Jordan Love. I don't know if it's me, but I've just noticed it. But hey, man, they still lost the game, and they're 11-5, and they got a playoff spot. I mean, Josh Jacobs is solid. I mean, he only had 69 yards, 1 touchdown, but I don't know. It's whatever. But my takeaway here has got to be Sam Darnold. Like, I did not expect this. Do I expect this to happen in the playoffs? Not really. I mean, I don't see it. I see him doing good things. I could see him winning a playoff game. But, Kevin O'Connell, again, doing his magical things. Playbook, trusting in him, giving him the confidence. Like I said, Kevin O'Connell is a master motivator. I'm telling you, he's a master motivator. And if you don't believe me, just ask the other players around the league who commented on him. And I just watched Kirk Cousins. He actually gave Kirk Cousins some life, especially after the stint with Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer at the tail end of his run coaching the Vikings wasn't really a nice guy. He was very rough, on the edges there. So, but yeah, the Vikings win 27-25, which also means that next week's game, which is now going to be a Sunday night game at 8:20, they're going to play Detroit for the division and a chance to get a bye in the first round. Do I see it happening? It's possible, but again, as far as I'm concerned, if they win, great, they get the bye. If they don't, then you're heading to Tampa. To me, I look at it like this. Winner gets a bye, loser goes to Tampa. And Tampa is not an easy place to play and an easy place to win. And which Baker are you going to get? If you're going to get this Baker that just played this Sunday, which played Sunday, which was yesterday technically by my time, I don't know. So we'll see what happens next week. It's going to be a classic, an absolute classic. Hopefully it is a classic, because sometimes when we're hyped for these games, it ends up being a blowout one way. So I'm not going to say a goddamn thing until the game happens. But it's interesting to see what has happened, and it's interesting to see that these things are materializing into some really, really closed out scenarios for the season. And this is the NFL again. The NFL always seems to give you this. They always find a way to keep you watching, to keep your eyes moving. Even if the games are boring, there's something happening. Even if, like, for example, again, the first 2 Christmas games, they were absolutely a disaster. But yet, we were still able to see All these things happen, all these scenarios with the draft in April, all these teams winning. Like it's crazy. But anyways, let me get down to the last order of business. The New York Jets. The New York Jets. The New York Jets. They go into Buffalo and they absolutely get their asses handed to them. Josh had a typical, quiet game, 16 completions, 27 attempts, 182 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. Mitchell Trubisky came in afterwards and had 1-for-1 through a 169-yard pass, had a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers, 2 picks, 12 for 18, 112. And then after Tyrod Taylor, who always seems to find a roster. Always he's a steady old faithful. Like he's always going to be on the team. He's always ready to go. Threw for 83 yards, had 2 touchdowns. And when I saw this on the score ticker, it was 40-0 for Buffalo. 40-0. So these 14 points were just fantasy points. So guys who needed fantasy points, and I know most of you, 99% of you don't have Tyrod Taylor on your roster. So, but if you had Garrett Wilson or Ty Conklin, they got you some fantasy points. But the Jets, man, they're going to have to do it all over again with a quarterback. And I remember somebody telling me, you keep drafting until you get it right. You keep drafting until you get it right. And I believe that wholeheartedly, I believe that. And the Jets are going to have to draft another quarterback. This is a complete wash. And as for the Bills, they get the 2nd seed. They get to relax next week. I'm sure they're going to take that week 18 and use it as a bye week for some of these guys to get ready for the first round. I'll say this on the Bills, got to win those playoff games. If the Bills do not get to the AFC Championship game, I could see Sean McDermott getting fired. I could see it happening. So I think the pressure is on. I think the Bills know it. Yes, the roster is a lot more spread out and more different from last season because of the cap casualty and the injuries and all that. But still, it's the NFL. No excuses. You play with what you got and you go out there and compete. And I'll say it again. The Bills don't get to the AFC Championship game, there's going to be a clean out. And it's going to be Sean McDermott. So there's a lot of pressure. But, at the end of the day, the NFL is getting down to it. They're getting close to the postseason. And, it's the very, very exciting time of the year because there's actually teams and players and coaches who are ready to go out there and try to win a Super Bowl. Not like the NFL. Not like the NFL, not like the NBA where we're just being wasted. Our time is being wasted with boring games, guys taking time off and all this stuff. And people say I'm very critical. Yeah, I am very critical because I grew up watching the NBA when the NBA had a lot of meaning to it, when there was a passion. The passion's not there. The paychecks are there, but not the passion. So, but this has been crazy, and we still got one game tomorrow between Detroit and San Francisco, which is going to be classic because, Frisco's always going to try to compete regardless. And this NFL season and this being the last pick six before 2025 still, it's going to be the same. And yes, we're doing playoffs. We are going right to the Super Bowl with pick six. So as the games wind down, we're still gonna have pick six. It's gonna keep going, whether it's pick six, quick take, it doesn't matter. So, but anyways, folks, finally that concludes this edition of Pick Six. Man, it was crazy week. It was a crazy week. But yeah, week 18 is on the rise. We got one more game left in week 17, and the rest is history, folks. Wherever you are in the world right now, Take care, stay safe, and happy holidays. If you celebrate holidays, again, happy holidays. If you don't, stay safe. Have yourself a great day, a great night, great afternoon. Peace.